So I leave the floor for the introduction to MEP Rosa D'Amato. Thank you, and thank you for hosting us.
Thank you very much, Pietro. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I'd like to thank Pietro Paganini for organizing this event, and also Ms. Macagno, who is an analyst at Competere. Pietro is a founder, co-founder, president, and creator of this organization, and I would like to thank them for the excellent job they've done, and I can tell by the number of people who are here today. As you can see from our agenda, the speakers we have invited are excellent ones. We have some very important stakeholders here with us today who deal with this issue day in, day out, and they have some interesting solutions to provide. I would now like to try and paint you a picture very briefly, because our experts will be giving you more details. So food waste is no longer sustainable, economically and environmentally. Of course, it's when we talk about eco-friendly, we talk about the environment, and it is not possible to support the environment, climate with food waste. Food prices are increasing. Nonetheless, farmers cannot have a steady income. Our foods are not safe, and at the same time, we waste a lot of it. Producers can no longer have an equitable income from their work, but at the same time, the number of people above the poverty line, not only in third countries, but even inside the European Union, is increasing, and there are a lot of people who don't have enough money to buy food. Eurostat data date back to 2021, so the situation has probably worsened. We talk about 132 kilograms of food wasted per capita per year. Families were responsible for 50% of food waste, about 70 kilograms per person. The remaining 46% are food waste generated in the first steps of the food chain. In Italy, food and protected indication products are particularly important, and we could think that the food waste is a less present phenomenon, but we generated 8.3 tons of food waste, which accounts for about 15% of EU production. And then there are also economic consequences. For example, we waste about 6 billion euros. 9 billion euros are the amount of food wasted by the production chain. So the total is 15 billion euros in food wasted every year. People struggle to find good food, and about 10% of the population is above the poverty line, below the poverty line, sorry. The European Union adopted the objective 12.3 of the sustainable objectives, which is to halve food waste by 2030. How can we reach that goal? Maybe by rethinking the food supply chain with a sustainable farm-to-fork strategy and adopting new technologies that can accompany this process. I am therefore particularly happy to have here experts from the research sector because it is important to base our reflections on data. And then we will have representatives that can give us an overview of European initiatives and all actors of the food chain, all players in the food chain, so they can give us their ideas and solutions. Then we will talk with other MEPs, DeMeo and Weider, and then we will listen to your ideas and your opinions. Thank you very much, and I'll give you the floor back to you, Pietro.
It's always good in the morning. Thank you very much. You said ecology. I would say also economy, but I say moderator. Moderator is also dictator, so the or is the same. So I will act a bit as a dictator, so you will apologize me very much, because not because I want to be a dictator. That's something sometimes I like, but because I would like instead to keep everybody in the time to give the chance to all of us to speak, of course, and to keep some time at the end for question and answer for everybody that is not signed up in the panel. But I'm sure there will be questions. So let me start by, obviously, as everyone usually does, thanking MEP D'Amato for organizing the event together with Competere and hosting us here. Let me thank the Green Group as well for the hospitality, the European Parliament, the Commission that has decided to join us. And also let me thank the Embassy of Indonesia that is here because they believe in the as they are part of the upstream and downstream of the supply chain to understand how it's possible to reduce food loss, particularly in the production phase. The idea is first to have a general understanding of what we're talking when we talk about food waste and food loss, and we will do this with our friends from Julia Kazza from the University of Budapest, and we'll give the floor, and then we will have a talk by the European representative of the European Commission, Alexandra Nikolakopoulos. I pronounced it wrong, but you apologize me. My Greek was very poor at school already, so I had to do the class a few times, and still I didn't learn it. And then we will go into a panel that will cover the entire supply chain, upstream and downstream, starting from the representative of the farmer, so the agriculture, down to the food producers, to the distribution, the providers, suppliers of technology, down till the consumers, and also looking at some technologies for the particularly for the consumers. Our focus is obviously on the policies, but also on the technology. In other words, what can be the environment that can support investment in innovation in developing new technologies that can support the entire supply chain to reduce food loss and food waste. So not just on the side of the consumers, where we have, as I said, beautiful examples, but also on the side of the very beginner producers. And so let me delve into the discussion right away. I don't want to take too much of your time. And I will start with Professor Julia Kazna from the University of Veterinary Medicine in Budapest. So thank you for being here. You have a presentation. Some of you have slides, if I'm correct. We don't have a remote control, or the Parliament doesn't have a remote control. So unfortunately, every time you want to move from a slide to another one, there are two ladies there, very kind, and you have to ask for moving on with the slides. So I know it's a little effort, but please, thank you for doing this. Always keep in mind that we're being recorded, and also the recording will be made available later on together with the slides. So thank you very much. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pietro. Thank you for the invitation for this very exciting event. I'm the coordinator. Okay. I'm the coordinator of Project Wasteless, which is the National Food Waste Prevention Program of Hungary. Next slide, please. Though we have only limited time, but I would like to start with some shocking numbers. The majority of food waste is coming from the consumer stage, majorly from the households, but also food service and retail producing a significant amount of food waste, accounting in total for more than 900 million tons per year. And together with agricultural production and manufacturing, we are around 1.3 billion tons per year. Next one, please. Which is said that 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions could be reduced coming from agricultural and food production if we would do better in food waste and food loss prevention. And please don't forget that food waste hurts twice. Not just the production burdens the environment, but also the waste treatment is a heavily contaminating procedure. Next one, please. FAO makes a distinction between food loss and food waste. They call food loss the discarded food coming from the earlier stages of the food chain up to but not including the retail level. And food waste is the food discarded at retailers, food service and consumers. Next one, please. Here in the EU, we generally speak about food waste. We make a less distinction between the two definitions, but not everything which looks food waste is actually food waste according to the legislation. For instance, animals before slaughtering or plants before harvesting, no matter how they get lost, are not regarded food waste just because they do not enter legally to the status of being food according to the general food regulation. And food originally intended for human consumption, but later turned to feed for animals, are not referred as food waste as well. And of course, we never account packaging among food waste. Next one, please. And we make a difference between avoidable and unavoidable or inedible food parts. There are lots of items which are part of the food when we buy it, but we are not able to ingest them, such as bones or eggshells, and maybe a few centuries will pass until we could digest these kind of elements. Next one, please. And it might be strange for some of you, but we all know that food going down the drain is actually food waste, but in the EU, we found it too difficult to get measured. That's why they are not part of the reporting. And we don't report the food given to pet or other household animals. Next one, please. Looking at the big numbers, as we heard about them in the keynote speech, we might summarize that the majority of food waste are coming from the households, but all other sectors are contributing to the big picture. Next one, please. Good news that we already have the data reporting, but I would like to emphasize, we are at the very beginning of this procedure. For the time being, we can see gaps in the harmonization of data collection, the methodological approaches, and data analysis, and also reporting. We did not receive report from a few countries, and I just highlight the case of Portugal and Spain, not hugely different countries in terms of geographical location and lifestyle. Still, Portugal reported 4 times more in terms of household food waste compared to Spain. So there must be something, a difference between the methodological approach between the two countries. Next one, please. In the next couple of slides, I'm going to highlight the most important causes of food loss and waste in the different stages of the food chain. In primary production, most often we face with quality and safety challenges, overproduction or lack of demand. and under organization in the food chain. Next one, please. In manufacturing, we are, besides the already mentioned factors, we are facing with logistical and technological challenges at many cases. Next one, please. In retail, the problem is completed by a struggle with the expiration dates and the flexible consumer behavior. Next one, please. At the restaurants and food services, we are really at the front line because, for one, we have the same challenges as manufacturers. On the other hand, we are also struggling with the hectic consumer behavior issues here. Next one, please. But households might pose the most complex challenge for all of us. Food waste is a hidden problem. The lack of awareness and the lack of the perception of the moral value of food are the most important problems in general. Besides that, we already observed many issues coming from social, coming from demographic, and coming from really practical issues. Good news that we invested lots of energy in researching these kind of factors, and we have started to implement them into our national programs, but there are a lot of things still to learn. Next one, please. It's a common understanding that food waste goes along the line set by the GDP per person. And it is true, but not entirely, because beyond the 4,000 per capita GDP in US dollars, we can see that there is something like a flat line. So it's not in line with the GDP per person. Next one, please. We have some solutions. Most importantly, we came up with the concept of the food waste pyramid, which starts with the prevention. Wherever prevention is not possible, we have to think about people in need to save food. The next stage is to feed animals with the food which is not able to get to humans. On the fourth stage, we think about the industrial valorization of food surpluses or food waste, and only at the last resort, food could be wasted or disposed. We can see many food waste prevention and valorization initiatives coming up these days, and the EU legislation is living a very intense period at this moment. We already have some elements such as the obligatory data collection and reporting, and we have to launch our national campaigns in every European countries. And we are just in the middle of defining legally binding targets for the EU member states. We have the national food waste prevention programs, and they started to work efficiently in most of the countries. And as I mentioned, we still have some challenge in the cohesion in measurement standards. Next one, please. And I would like to introduce the example of the Hungarian food waste prevention campaign, Project Wasteless, or Maradék nélkül. We have a very good reach to the overall population, but we have the children and young adults as the most important target groups. And we work together with many teachers in this respect. We have a good size of group of social media followers, mostly coming from opinion leaders, journalists, or teachers. And we were able to get the attention of almost 40% of the Hungarian population so far. And this is one of the most cost-efficient national programs in the EU. Partly because of this and partly because of our educational program, we made our way to the Best Practices Compendium published by GRC, which is a book I highly recommend to you, same as the European Food Loss and Waste Prevention Hub, a place where you can find the most actual information, what is going on in the EU in this respect, and you can learn from other initiatives. Next one, please. We are really happy to see the numbers getting better and better. Up to now, we were able to decrease the avoidable food waste by 27%. And next one, please. This makes us optimistic that we might reach the 50% reduction by 2030 as set by the Sustainable Development Goals by the UN. Next one, please. And the end, by this beautiful drawing, I would like to say thank you for your kind attention. This is a picture sent by a kid from Hungary to one of our drawing contests. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Professor. Beautiful drawing. Probably I cannot replicate it anyway. Thank you for introducing us to several topics. I just want to remind, since some slides were moved quickly and you probably under the pressure of the dictator, so they will be in any case made available. So if you have intention to go through them, they will be posted online and share with you. Thanks for the distinction between food loss and food waste. Also for introducing the topic of the legislation, the EU legislation. Your example or your best case in Hungary. But since you mentioned the great tension and expectation on the EU legislation, we have probably the best representative today here from the DG Sante, from the European Commission, and it's Alexandra Nikolakopoulou. Did I pronounce well?
Yes, very good.
My Greek, my reminiscence. Kalosa, my Greek is improving. Floor is to you. You can start, responding to what was said by Professor, or you can go with your own comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would like also to thank very much Ms. Rosa D'Amato for hosting this event. I think the European Parliament has played a very important and continues to play a very important role in supporting the efforts of the European Commission to prevent and reduce food waste. I don't need to develop more on the importance of reduction and prevention of food waste and the consequences, environmental, economical and social impact. This has been very well explained, and it is also reflected, I think, as you know, last year we had the first citizens panel on food waste after the conference on the future of Europe, where citizens had provided a number of recommendations on how also to reduce food waste. I'm also glad that there will be also further opportunities, and it was already explained, to make this distinction between food waste and food losses, because sometimes there have been many misunderstandings about these terms. So it is important when we describe our actions to have a very good understanding of what is food waste, what is food losses, and what we in our legislation are covering. In terms of action, the Commission has been doing a lot, and we continue to do a lot in the last years. However, it is important also to think that the Commission alone and our efforts and any legislation is not sufficient to reduce or to prevent food waste. And we need action on the ground, action by food business operators, by member states, but also by consumers. What we are doing in the end is to create the enabling environment. And when I mean enabling policy environment, this covers regulation, so the regulatory framework with clear goals, definitions, but also supporting investments, research and innovation. So, first of all, what we need to do and what we try to do is to incentivize action at member state level to comply, to reach the Sustainable Development Goal 12.3, where the EU and its member states are committed. So we do it already by providing clear definitions. So we have definitions of food waste in the existing waste legislation, general requirements for member states to develop prevention programs, requirements concerning the measurement of food waste. We need to measure. We cannot manage food waste if we do not measure it. So member states have clear obligations to measure and to report food waste annually. And this is done on the basis of an EU harmonized methodology that we have adopted. At the same time, we clarify existing legislation. The Commission has adopted guidance to clarify rules to facilitate food donation, to facilitate the use of wasted food in animal feed. And most recently, last July, we adopted a new legislative proposal introducing legally binding targets for member states to reduce food waste by 2030 at the level of manufacturing and processing. This is a 10% and 30% for at household and retail level. So this proposal is currently in discussion and negotiations with the Council and the European Parliament. I'm happy to see that both institutions are committed to advance and to progress with this legislation quite fast. Obviously, this is part of the bigger package of the waste legislation, and these dossiers, they move together. Food losses are not covered by this legislative proposal. This does not mean that food losses are not important for the Commission. It is an issue. What we need to do there really is to improve the collection of data and also to work on a harmonized quantification method. And there is currently a project which is ongoing by the DG Research in order to establish and to develop a methodology for the quantification of food losses. Now, besides the legislation, a lot is based and supported by learning and exchanging best practices. And here our key tool is the EU platform on food losses and food waste, which operates since 2015 with many subgroups. I think the results and the work that we are doing there is really impressive. There is a lot of commitment, and the participants are both member states, stakeholders, but also international organizations. So the European platform is obviously the flagship, I would say, for this learning and exchanging of best practices. But as it was mentioned also by Professor, we have also a digital hub, which is open to the public, and this is really facilitates also the spreading of best practices. And also we have the pilot project from the European Parliament on EU Consumer Food Waste Forum, which has brought really very interesting tips and solutions to improve consumer understanding and to facilitate reduction of food waste at consumer level. At the same time, it is interesting to know that the Commission is also offering financial support both to member states but also to food businesses through the Single Market Programme, through grants to develop any action, take action to measure food waste or to reduce food waste. Now, 2 words about innovation, which is very important. It is the subject also of this discussion today. We have already seen technological solutions on the ground, be it in better packaging, more efficient processing, creative also use of byproducts to reduce food waste. But this is only a part. What will be the real challenge also for the member states is actually to change behavior, to change consumer behavior. And here also there is room for technological solutions. And some concrete examples that we can give is, for example, mobile applications to help to sell or donate surplus food. We also have some very sophisticated software that would include also artificial intelligence for the measurement of food waste. Digital tools to predict the shelf life of the products and for real-time self-monitoring and dynamic pricing. In addition, through the Horizon Europe program, the Commission finances research and development of innovative solutions to tackle food waste. In the last program, we have 55 million euro, where several calls for projects on food waste related topics were funded. We have a big list. I will not mention those, but just to name a few, we have also a project focusing on harmonized measurement, as I mentioned, solutions to prevent and reduce food waste relating to marketing standards, but also to extend shelf life and many others. So all in all, I think it is clear from what we will be discussing that the reduction of food waste lies on the mobilization of all the policies. It is a cross-cutting issue. It requires action at all policy levels, food, environment, climate, social policies, funding, and also research and innovation. And above all, it requires a collective effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alexandra, for this great overview of the work that the Commission has done, particularly on the food waste, on the platform and the pilot project. Also, the Parliament is working on, but particularly on the work of the Commission. Also, very important, the work that needs to be done on the food loss, the need that was expressed by both of you on the measurement and the measurement criteria, both on food waste and food loss. And thanks also for mentioning the case of innovation and the importance of innovation in technology, particularly AI, as you mentioned, the online platforms, but as well as we will see in a few minutes what the single players along the supply chains are doing. Also, the case of refrigeration and transportation is very important. So thank you very much for being here with us and for your valuable insights. I will move immediately on the supply chain. If I may, we move from a Greek to another Greek, but with the easier, I have to say, family name, with all respect. So now we enter into the debate about mitigation food loss, the technology and solution. And the best way to do is to start with really not even the first transformation, but the real producers and who works the land and works also with the animals and producing of commodities and fruit and vegetables. So we have probably the best in class here in Brussels, that is Copa Cogeca. So I will leave the floor to Eva Sali as a representative of Copa Cogeca. Thank you so much. We also have the presentation.
Yeah, good. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Pietro, and to Competere for the invitation. Very pleased to be here in the panel. So my name is Eva Sali, as Pietro said, and I work on food waste within Copa Cogeca, among other things, where I cover food and feed safety, quality, promotion, and labeling. Next slide, please. I'm not going to delve too much into the definitions because those have already been mentioned by Professor Casa and also by Alexandra, who highlighted the distinction between the definitions existing in the EU and those of FAO. Just to mention that on our side, it is important to make the distinction between what is avoidable and unavoidable, or edible and inedible. Then next slide, please. Talking about farmers and their roles in managing resources, I would like to highlight a couple of things. First, that we have welcomed the proposal of the European Commission presented last year on the 5th of July, and which aims to establish legally binding targets for food waste reduction. On our side, just to underline that farmers have no reason to discard any product that has value, and actually they are very much involved into finding outlets which can range from distribution to incorporation into the soil in accordance with the hierarchy established by the Waste Framework Directive, of course. Then the second thing is that we need to take into consideration that farming is an activity which is subject to factors that are beyond the control of farmers and agro-cooperatives in most cases. Those can be the high degree of economic dependence on their trading partners. So we're talking here about the power imbalance in the food supply chain, and of course the characteristics of the agricultural activity in itself, subject to pests, diseases, weather conditions, and so on and so forth. And remind that at EU level there are some mechanisms in place, for instance the producer organizations, which help manage the surplus in the market and ensure that there is the quality and the quantity necessary. Next slide, please. So projects and programs that the farmers and cooperatives are developing, and those can range, but probably you can't see it because it's too small. Those can range from changing behaviors to finding outlets to engaging in collaborative actions with academia and national authorities. Also to food donation, which is an important element, and awareness. But most importantly, that food waste reduction is not only an environmental and social responsibility for all of us, but it's also economic opportunity, because at the end of the day, farmers and cooperatives, they are economic actors, and the interest is that of making the best use of the resources available, so feeding more with less, and as a result also reducing food waste and losses. Next slide, please. So there are several challenges that need to be tackled when it comes to preventing food losses and reducing food waste, not in the primary production, but also in the processing and manufacturing. And those, as Alexandra pointed out, they start with changing behaviors of consumers and how you better valorize the produce that is put on your plate. And of course, part of it includes the marketing standards, and also, and most importantly for this panel, is technology. So access to innovation and technology. And how we mean that? Well, for farmers and cooperatives, it is essential to have access to technology and innovation. And what we mean by that is, well, have access to a toolbox, and that can range from precision farming to plant protection products to proper treatment and veterinary medicines. And of course, it can include also the techniques such as plant varieties, whereby strengthening some of the traits of the plants, and we limit also, we increase the resistance to pests and to weather conditions, and we also limit food waste as a result. In order to make the best out of this possibilities that are out there, it is appropriate, or it is necessary, better say, to have access to a toolbox, financing. Alexandra already mentioned some of the examples and the funding that is available, both for measuring but also for reducing, and of course the legal certainty to work with. So next slide, please. This is the last slide for me, and here I've mentioned some of the projects which involve innovation and technology, and they are actually a couple. So they range from platforms where restaurants and consumers they can have access to surplus food. They involve also the genomic plant breeding, and that is the case of DAFK in Denmark. There is bio protection, that's Christian Hansen in Denmark as well. There is a project in the Netherlands, which is Competere, whereby they make use of male chicks for food and feed. There is a project in Austria, which is named Unwasted, and there they are collaborating, farmers are collaborating with startups in order to make use of the surplus fruits and vegetables. So these are just a few of the examples, and there are plenty out there, and the work is continuing. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Eva, so much for starting this part of the panel, and also for introducing the fact that food waste and food loss is not just an ethical issue, but it's also an economic and technological problem. There are probably some more points to be added. If we look at some countries where some of the producers are very tiny and small, and they don't have the culture, or they don't have the tools, or they don't have the finance to embark in projects as you mentioned. So it's very important also to make these projects available all around Europe to incentivize the participation of all the farmers. I like very much the slide about the point about marketing, also the role that marketing plays in this regard. So thank you very much. From the agriculture, usually foods move into food transformation. I was very much before impressed by the relationship between food safety and also food loss, because the two, sometimes they move in two different directions, but in a way they have to move together. It will be interesting to see in the future how AI, for instance, can help consumers, buying safe food or healthy food, and on the other side, making sure it doesn't expire before time. So I will move to Federica Dolce from the Food and Drink Europe. So thank you very much for representing the food and transformer industry. Thanks.
Hear me well? Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you for the amazing speakers. And I really found the presentation of Professor Katz extremely on point, because, as well as the one of Miss Sally, as they really gather together the points of Food Drink Europe. So we are the Food and Drink Industry Trade Association, and among several food producers, we also have the, let's say, advantage of having also some national association in our membership. That brings us the incredible value of having the perspective of national representatives as well. From the food and drink industry, there has been incredible effort in decreasing food waste, because, as it has been mentioned, it represents an economic challenge, together with also other challenges related to food safety, and also, let's say, the values that get lost in the procedure. It is really important that the topic of the difference between food loss and waste arose at this meeting today, because it's one of the things that we are looking at, and we are happy to see that the Commission is developing a calculation methodology for food loss. We're very welcome about that. We have also a recent report that gave us the data that, for example, related to food loss in Flanders. There is this case study that was developed by one of our members. Food loss at production level has been basically minimized to less than 5%. And this is currently, for example, not really considered in the waste framework directive, where we really welcome the binding targets and the commitment that we're making to achieve the goals. But indeed, we have been talking about policy enablers, and we really see this new regulation as the possibility to do that step forward. In this regard, for example, we see that we have experienced over the years some exceptional crises that have led to indeed factors that were beyond the control of food producers, that being, for example, the COVID crisis or climate crisis that represents really important adverse effects in the production, and what we ultimately have to deliver to consumers in terms of quality and quantity. There's also been in parallel the revision of the packaging and packaging waste regulation, where the role of packaging, let's say, was highlighted for everything that was concerning food safety related measures, also as a way to prevent food waste. So, first point in terms of policy enabler would be to have as much consistency as possible between the different regulations, also where food safety and food waste go together in acknowledging also, for example, the role of packaging. And second of all, when we mention targets, for example, we have indeed mentioned the gaps between the member states. We have mentioned some problems related with reporting and collection. And of course, this reflects as well to how this can be legally binding for then each part of the value chain to contribute to the food targets. We in fact believe that as currently the Commission proposal mentioned, there is a nominal target on food waste reduction, meaning that regardless of the food waste fluctuation that can be subject to, as I've mentioned before, adverse effects that are beyond our control, the target will actually be the same, resulting in discrepancies of being actually more than what can actually be achievable or less than what can actually be achievable. This is, for example, our suggestion that we have to add the specification of per ton of food produced when mentioning the food waste targets. And it could seem to be a detail or a technical point, but it actually really represents that if we expect food waste, food production growing as the growing population is advancing, the target should represent the fluctuation of the production in this regard. So to finally conclude, we definitely welcome anyway all the effort that has been done also from the Commission side on research and development. We are part of the food waste platform where we keep providing our details, and let's say that we look forward for further guidelines and further harmonization in the calculation methodology. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Federica, also for pointing out, in particular, the last point, and also highlighting the growing population. The growing population is certainly a big challenge in terms of food security, but it's also a big challenge in terms of food waste. Moving along the line after, obviously, and I'm going like the kids, step by step after Federica, and so Food and Drink Europe representing food transformers and food transformation, and we have the distribution of food. So how food goes from the factory, from producers down to the distribution channel, and therefore to the sales points, and how food is in a way controlled or managed within the food distribution, not just the logistic, but also at the sale point. So I think we have one of the best representative of this chain, that is Malte Piontek, that represent the Schwarz Group. If you are not familiar with the Schwarz Group, obviously you can check online, but is also representative of the Lidl supermarket. It's probably one of the most famous brands worldwide, not just in Europe. Your floor. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Ms. D'Amato, thank you very much for hosting the event today. I think it's a very... Nicola Kopoulou, thank you very much. And dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much again for the possibility today to share our insights into reducing food waste as a retailer. As already mentioned, my name is Malte Piontek, and I'm a public affairs manager for the Schwarz Group here in Brussels. Next slide, please. As already mentioned, quickly, just a couple of words about what Schwarz Group is. We operate the two retail brands Lidl and Kaufland, operating in 32 countries. We are present in all 27 EU member states. Annually, 6.8 billion customers visit our over 13,700 stores, working with 575 colleagues around the world. We also have a food production site in Schwarz Group called Schwarz Production, and we also have a recycling company called PreZero. Next slide, please. When we look at fighting food waste and where do our initiatives tackle along the food supply chain, we obviously work over the whole supply chain, cooperating closely with suppliers, then followed by our own operations, a very efficient logistics, our innovative approaches in our stores. Then we work closely together with charities where we redistribute foods and to community groups. And then obviously we also help customers and consumers to reduce food waste at their end. Next slide, please. So when I talk about efficient logistics and streamlined ordering processes, what do we mean with that? How do we prevent food waste there? So we start this all with our highly efficient logistics. Our inventory management system makes sure that we always have the right amount of products in our stores. We use for that a wide range of data to help us do this, from sales figures to weather forecast to AI, so we know what our customers want at what point in our stores. Just to give you a quick example about that, so there is obviously fluctuation between days in our stores. When we look at baked goods, for example, we know that customers, for example, on a Tuesday want more bread rolls than on a Thursday, and then we prepare differently. So this is our day-to-day business. Then we discuss with our suppliers what, when, how many goods we need. This allows, first of all, our partners, but obviously also ourselves, to plan quantities precisely. And many of our fruits and vegetables are sourced domestically, and they are in store around about 24 hours after harvesting. So goods stay as short as possible in our regional distribution centers before being shipped out to our stores. Next slide, please. So now let's have a look at how do we reduce food waste in our stores. We follow the well-known logistics approach, first in, first out, which is a systematic management of shelf life. So it means our colleagues in the stores go frequently daily through our shelves and make sure that the products with the shortest best before and best buy dates always stand in front. Fresh produce is important to us, so this is why we have a targeted discounting of products, so we ensure that nothing is left on the shelves. We are reducing food that is approaching its best before date, as you can see here with the 30% sticker. With the help of our ordering system, we ensure that no unsold food is left. The discounted products then are prominently placed in our Save Me boxes, which you can see here on the top, where customers then can find them. Furthermore, we have introduced multiple initiatives. Let me talk about one we introduced in 2022, is the so-called food saving bag, which you see here on the top left. It restores the value to fruit and vegetables that are imperfectly shaped, but they are perfectly good and safe to eat, or their package is slightly damaged. So we sell them at a discounted price of €3 per bag. Next slide, please. So what do we do furthermore? So what are a couple of initiatives we are doing? First of all, we highlight with additional labeling on products that they are best before but often good after, that customers and consumers should use their senses to look, smell and taste if the product is so good. And we, besides that, have long-standing partnerships with food banks and charities. Let me just highlight a couple of them. So besides passing on products, we closely cooperate in Germany with the food bank. Lidl Germany is with its Donate Your Deposit program, just recently reached the €30 million target. So we are also helping food banks to be perfectly equipped, that they have the cooling troughs and the means to transport the goods. Lidl France works closely together with Restos de Cœur. They saved 70,000 tons, and Kaufland in Romania saved since February 2020 48 tons, which were prepared for over 100,000 meals for people in need. Next slide, please. Furthermore, we distribute agri-fruits and vegetables. They were already mentioned. They might not look as nice, but they obviously taste the same. So we obviously also sell them at Kaufland. And furthermore, we fund and organize education programs for students where they learn everything about how they can avoid wasting food at their end. How do you store food? What can you prepare? How do you prepare your shopping? And so on and so on. Besides that, we provide tips and tricks how to reduce food waste. So that means that there's different temperature zones in a fridge. How do you store products? How do you prepare your shopping? What do you can prepare with your leftovers? So they find plenty of information in our stores and online. For example, that bananas shouldn't be stored together with other products because they tend to ripen other fruits and vegetables. So just these very quick and handy tricks. But beyond that, we closely work together with our suppliers so that we can react, for example, to oversupply. Such oversupply can be caused, for example, by hot weather in the summers, which makes tomato ripen way quicker. We then offer this oversupply to our customers in an additional promotion so that they can still be sold and don't go to waste. Next slide, please. Coming to the end of my presentation, I just want to highlight a couple of points which we believe are key success factors for fighting food waste when we talk about food waste legislation. Especially in the light of the ongoing Waste Framework Directive, I think it is key that we have legal certainty when we talk about definitions, the methodology, that is key. But we also always hear from our colleagues in the different member states. In a couple of member states, we would love to more closely cooperate and intensify our cooperation with food banks, but that is always not that easy because we lack a bit of legal certainty because there's some liability issues which make it sometimes a bit tricky. I think it is key that we take past achievements into account, as already mentioned in my presentation. We have done a lot at our end. We have reduced high numbers of food waste already. We will do that in the future. We will implement more innovative approaches, but I think it is important when we talk about that this is taken into account. As already mentioned, the PPWR trilogues are going on currently, but I also want to mention quickly, packaging is important to prevent food waste. Less packaging, and really emphasize this here, can mean more food waste. It doesn't necessarily mean. But let me give you an example. For example, when we look at a broccoli, with packaging, a broccoli lasts 12 days without 7. This makes a difference how much food waste we generate at our end, at consumers, and packaging protects products during transport. So it is necessary in some cases. So I think this is important to take into account when we talk about that. And we need to take a proportionate responsibility here, because I think everyone in the supply chain should take responsibility for the food waste they generate themselves. We work closely together with everyone in the supply chain. I think this is part of the success to reduce food waste. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Malte, particularly for also the commitment that your organization is putting, the use of technology, the streamlined ordering process, and the first in, first out. Very interesting. Actually, is what, as an Italian, I have to mention my mom. Is what my mom usually complains about, that the old ones are always on the front. I will explain her the reason why they are on the front. But thank you, and also thank you for referring. That probably will generate some debate later on. I noticed you took some on the food package, so be prepared. I'm still taking a lot of notes on the last point. Moving on along the supply chain, we actually have a supplier of technology that is Claudio Zanframundo, that is the representative of Trane Technologies. So I'll leave the floor to you as, let's say, not a producer of food or a distributor of food, but a supplier and a sort of B2B, a supplier of advanced technology to protect food waste and food loss. So the floor is to you, Claudio.
Thanks. My name is Claudio Zanframundo, and I lead the Thermo King transport refrigeration business at Trane Technologies. I'm really honored to be here today on sharing some ideas on how we can collectively reduce food losses. But first of all, let me thank Rosa D'Amato for hosting us here today, and for her insights, and also Pietro and the Competere team for putting together all this team discussing about this important topic. But move to next chart. Let me share you a second what is Trane Technologies. Trane Technologies is a global climate innovator. We bring sustainable solutions and efficient climate solutions for buildings, for homes, for transport refrigerations through our two strategic brands that are Trane and Thermo King. Today, 15% of the global emissions are coming from heating and cooling of the buildings, and there is an additional 10% that is coming from food loss and food waste. So together, that's 25% of global greenhouse emissions where we can make an impact. And we are setting the pace for decarbonizing buildings and all the transport cold chain with clean and energy efficient solutions. Sustainability in Trane Technologies is not just a buzzword, but it's something we strongly believe into, and is part of our 2030 sustainable commitments aligned with the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. Today, I will, of course, zoom more into the Thermo King business. We can move to the next chart. Our company plays a key role in ensuring a perishable food, that the food can have a seamless transition from point A to point B of the cold chain with temperature-controlled solutions. And Thermo King is the only company that is able to deliver end-to-end connected, active, temperature-controlled solutions. So we go via air, ocean, road, or cold storage solutions into that. Our business touches many parts of the cold chain, the long haul, the last mile deliveries, the storage, and we have a strong focus toward electrification. If you move to the next chart, this is how we feel important, everything that is linked to food loss challenge. We completely sustain the European Commission goals launched to follow the SDG goals for halving the per capita food loss waste by 2030. And we also support initiatives like the Too Good To Go, because are really key ones for making sure that we are limiting as much as we can the food waste. For giving you an idea of the scenario that we face today, here are a couple of data related to Europe, specifically on fruits and vegetables that are part of an important component of the European healthy diet. 50% of fruits and vegetables are lost or wasted annually. And if we look at the edible food mass, there is a 10% of this food mass that is completely lost during the distribution. So it's a huge amount that is calling to action. And we can move to the next chart, because in Thermo King, we are taking it seriously and making sure also that we have an electrified set of devices for transporting our goods. Thermo King actually introduced the electrification into the transport industry already decades ago. And today our product lines are counting the largest zero emissions or low emissions solutions in all the segments of the market, and more than 40,000 vehicles are transporting today goods all across Europe with those zero emission devices, and the number is growing on a daily basis. For giving you an idea of the innovations that we are driving to the market, we have recently launched a system that won, by the way, also several awards. That is a power axle. Basically, we are recovering the kinetic energy of the vehicle while the vehicle is braking. We are recharging batteries and then powering the reefer unit. So we can do that basically without using fossil fuels at all. But we are also into developing high voltage batteries and into developing solar panel systems. We continue also to invest into delivering low GWP refrigerant options to our customers. And actually we have done it proactively during the years, providing to our customers low GWP refrigerants and innovative solutions, even when there were still not regulatory requirements present. Now, with the F-gas regulation review process that is complete and the refrigerated transport are looked at by the Commission over the next years, we need really to ensure that any policy decision around the refrigerants in this segment is carefully taking in account efficiency, technical feasibility, and scalability of the solutions provided. But move to the next chart. I talked about product, but of course into the cold chain, there is another key element that is the digitalization. The magnitude of the pandemic we all suffered a couple of years ago put the cold chain under severe stress. And it was a huge learning for us because we learned how to leverage also the digital solutions into that. During those extremely difficult times, we ensured a cold chain continuity, ensuring the distribution of vaccines, the distribution of food to people in our homes, and we leveraged the digital solutions. The perishable goods transport and logistics requires very tight and precise temperature control for avoiding food waste and for avoiding food loss. And our solutions are allowing us really to extend the freshness of the food and to comply also with all the food safety and hygiene protocols. And next slide, for giving you also some practical and tangible examples on how this is working. This is a feedback from one of our customers that is using one of our service solutions, Thermocare Fleet Monitoring, that is a 24/7 monitoring of the goods. It enables the customer to have a full protection of the cargo. This customer, and there are other tens of customers like that, have been able to save transports and save shipments during the last months. Next chart, just for concluding. So let me say that in Trane Technologies and in Thermo King, we are really happy to be part of this group. Events like these ones are helping us to share what we already have in our portfolio and to share that we are really into action mode. And just adopting the technologies that are already available today, we can really make the difference into the cold chain. So thanks for the wonderful contribution, and let's keep working harder into that direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claudio, for presenting all the great technologies, the big effort and investment in innovation that you are daily putting to ensure the transportation of food in a safe way. We were just joined by MEP members of Parliament, Ines Vaidere. I was told you have to leave early, but then I was told you are not leaving early. So so twice changing program, but that's the beauty of being here live. Also, there are some people online. I see there are around 40 people that are following online. There will be room for them as well to share some question later on. So we have the last three talks in the main panel we have here, and the next speaker is Christophe Dierkens from the app that has been mentioned. Don't laugh for my pronunciation, but Flemish is definitely not my language, and is representing probably the most popular and famous today app that is Too Good To Go, and you are the link between producers, distributors, and the consumers. But I know you have also some news about also new services they are provided at the B2B level. So, floor is yours. Thank you so much, Chris.
Microphone. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. Thank you to MEP D'Amato for hosting this event and to all of the previous speakers for their presentations. We're very excited to be able to contribute to this discussion today, particularly in the context of the ENVI vote on legally binding food waste reduction targets tomorrow that has been mentioned a few times. My name is Christophe Dierkens. I am Public Affairs Director at Too Good To Go. And Too Good To Go is a social impact company that fights food waste. Next slide, please. So I'm going to spend a few minutes to talk about the innovative solutions that digital scale-up like Too Good To Go brings to the fight against food waste. Previous speakers have already highlighted the economic, financial, and social challenges that the food waste issue brings, so I'm not going to repeat that. But at Too Good To Go, our vision is that we dream of a planet with no food waste, and we keep that very much in mind in all the different solutions and actions and tools that we develop to fight food waste. Next slide, please. Briefly about our mission. Our mission is to inspire and empower everybody to fight food waste together, and I want to highlight two words in this mission, which is the empower part and the together part. When we say empower, we really mean that we want to develop very simple solutions, accessible to all, to play a role in fighting food waste in their daily lives. And the together part, because we believe that, of course, food waste is a symptom of how our food systems are operated today, and so we need strong collaboration between actors of the food supply chain to tackle the issue. All that in a context of achieving, of course, SDG 12.3, which is to reduce food waste by 50% by 2030. Next slide, please. So Too Good To Go, in essence, is a B2C, business to consumer marketplace for surplus food. Some of you might know it, some of you don't. I'll explain very simply. When stores have surplus food, can be any kind of stores, they put it on the application, and consumers who have registered for the application simply look for stores that have surplus food close to where they are. They make a reservation for a surprise bag of surplus food through the app, and then they go pick it up at the store at the designated time. We've created some flexibility in the creation of our app to make sure that we're really tackling food waste. First of all, is to give stores flexibility to put in the bag what is really in surplus at the end of the day. That's why we've created the concept of the surprise bag. It doesn't tell you in advance what's going to be in the bag, just to give stores that flexibility of, as I said, putting in the bag what is in surplus. If we would say in advance it will be a bag of this or that product, we're not really fighting food waste. We're just providing an alternative distribution channel, which is not the mission. And so consumers buy it at reduced price, usually a third of the retail price, which allows them to make a good deal, to access good food, very important, and allows stores to save the costs of not discarding surplus food. And of course, consumers use the app for various reasons. It can be for financial reasons, because you can access good quality food at reduced price. It can be for environmental reasons, because you believe in the food waste challenge and you want to play your part in it. It can be for discovery reasons. You want to test out a new store and find that this is a fun way to do it. And we don't ask, of course, a Too Good To Go user is a Too Good To Go user. It doesn't matter what the reason is for using the app when you present yourself in the store. Next slide, please. So this is a bit of a picture of how we're doing so far. Too Good To Go is by origin and by design very much a European business, a European startup, has become scale-up, founded in Denmark. We're active in 17 markets now, 15 of them in Europe, plus Canada and the United States since 2 years. And in those 17 markets, we've helped save over 300 million bags of surplus food, which is a rough equivalent of 770,000 tons of CO2 emissions avoided. We have about over 85 million registered users of our app across those countries, and we work together with over 150,000 stores that save surplus food through our app in those markets. You can see some of our partners highlighted there. Next slide, please. Yes, our app, we call it the triple win, our solution. It's a win for consumers, for partners, and for the planet. Consumers access great food at discount price and play their role in fighting against food waste. Partners, of course, reduce their own food waste levels and save some of the costs while doing it. And at the same time, all of that has a positive impact on the climate. Again, we've heard about the environmental impact of food waste from previous speakers. I want to add to that some positive news as well. Project Drawdown a couple of years ago highlighted that fighting food waste is actually one of the most efficient and effective solutions to counter the effects of climate change. So that's bringing a positive signal to what reducing food waste can bring to reversing the effects of climate change. Next slide, please. Pietro mentioned that we have some novelties to bring as well. This isn't exactly new, but it's newer than what I was talking about before. By design, our solution is principally aimed at small stores, retailers, to help them save supplies food. You might notice by the slide that we still have to work on the design of how to present these solutions, but if we go back to the mission of Too Good To Go, and I highlighted this aspect of together, the fact that action needs to be taken across the food supply chain. Some manufacturers came to us as well and asked us to try if we can make the solution work from Too Good To Go also for manufacturing level surplus food. Surplus food happens everywhere. All the actors in the food supply chain are trying to minimize and to prevent food waste, but some parts of surplus are inevitable. At manufacturing level, you can think of mismatches between supply and demand. You can think of damaged packages. You can think of printing errors, also best before dates approaching, and various reasons. Obviously, it was difficult for us to send consumers to factories for a low-price magic bag. So we designed a new solution called Magic Parcels, where we buy surplus food from manufacturers. We store it in a warehouse, and then we repackage it into magic parcels according to a certain theme, according to a certain type of product that can be also ordered through the app. But the parcels are delivered to people at home. They're also in slightly larger quantities than the surprise bags from retail and food services level. And this is a solution that's been kicked off now in 5 of our 17 markets. For now, it's working quite well. I think we're saving about 100,000 parcels per month at this rate, and look forward to taking it further. Next slide, please. And then just to close and talking a bit more about innovation and digital solutions, this is also something new that we've launched. It's to further help retailers manage close to expiry products, and it's an AI-powered tool that allows retailers to digitally track and manage their expiry dates. So what this does is that, this software is integrated. It's called Too Good To Go platform. It allows retailers to integrate the software in their PDA devices, and the PDA devices will make intelligent recommendation in time on what to do with certain close to expiry products, whether it's discounting products, and the machine will actually print the discount stickers in function of what makes sense, whether it is putting the product in a Too Good To Go magic bag, or whether it is donating the product to a charity or a food bank. So powered by AI, very much a novel tool for us that we are rolling out across our 17 markets, and something that we really look forward to seeing the development of. Next slide, please. Oh, I forgot there's one more to close. It's less digital, but it still has a large impact. We always wonder about how to tackle food waste at consumer level. Can't regulate consumers in the same way. So it's all about educational campaigns and sending the right message. So we're partnering with, I think, over 500 brands across the world to paste this sticker onto packages to really get consumers to think about whether to throw away a product that is past its best before date or not. We know that I think it's 10% of food waste at consumer level is linked to misinterpretation, misunderstanding of what date labels exactly mean. So you find this logo on more than 7 billion products across the world now, and it's really to create a stop and pause moment with consumers to think, do I really need to throw this product away right now? Can I trust on my senses and keep it a bit longer or use it a bit longer than what the best before date actually says? Next slide, please. This time, really done. Thank you very much, and look forward to the rest of the discussion.
Thank you, Christophe. Being a company, or you started not as a company, tried to become social or responsible, but you started as a vision that became a business, I would say, and that's the beauty of contemporary market, and also the tools that are here available, particularly on the internet, and all the apps, and also the integration of the AI is very impressive. And I just wonder how this will develop in the next months, and here if technology keeps developing exponentially. We have the two last speakers. Federica Grassi from SAFE. SAFE stands for Safe Food Advocacy Europe, a consumer organization. So we moved from the farmers down to the consumer right now. So the floor is yours, Federica.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, thank you for organizing these interesting and successful events, and for inviting SAFE to the panel of discussion. My name is Federica Grassi. I work as project and policy officer for Safe Food Advocacy Europe. Next slide, please. That is, an NGO representing European consumer at EU level. And we count, next slide please, on our members organizations that are spread around the EU member states to ensure highest and best and diverse representation of consumers' needs. And we work on two main directions, which are, next slide, please. Thank you. The policies and projects co-financed or financed completely by the European Union. And we believe that to achieve or to improve food safety of European food, we can work on these three main pillars that are health, environment, and inclusion. And we do it through our advocacy campaigns and, as I mentioned before, throughout the implementation of European projects. Next slide, please. Today, I'm here to advocate for the urgent need of changing the way we produce. As was mentioned by MEP D'Amato in her keynote speech, we are not producing in a nice way. And so we believe that before talking about innovations and technologies, even though they are very important to tackle food waste at this point, we need to really reassess and to understand that we are, and I'm pretty sure we all know that we're not producing in a good way, and considering the staggering data and statistics surrounding food waste, we can understand that food waste and food losses are having a detrimental impact not only on the environment but also on our economies and on food security. So crises all over the world were mentioned already. So we really need to work on these. Next slide, please. And to do so, our idea, our suggestions are focusing on three main points. So we need to really expand the scope of the Waste Framework Directive. And indeed, it was mentioned that the primary production is not included yet in the targets, in the binding targets, but we need to expand the scope. So I'm really happy to hear that the Commission is working on reducing also or introducing targets that could take into account food losses and not only waste, because we are all part of the food value chain from primary production to consumer level, so from the farm to the fork. And we really hope that the next policymakers, legislators will not throw away the work that has been done for the publication of a legislative framework for sustainable food systems. We will keep on advocating for that publication. And the second point that, in my opinion, is important to mention is the fact that, we need to raise consumers' awareness, but not only consumers' awareness. They're not the only players, the only actors in the food value chain. So we need to raise awareness of food business operators. We need to raise awareness of policymakers themselves about the true costs of food. And when I'm talking about costs, I'm not referring only to the monetary value of food, but also of the social, healthy, and environmental impact and issue that surrounds the food waste. And last but not least, also, we would like to introduce or to implement policies that include food reduction objectives and targets into any legislative proposal, into anything that is related to building a sustainable food system. And the most, like the glue that would keep everything together is science. So like we still need more data that are available for everyone. And so even though like the 2020 baseline and the baseline measurements on the 2021 estimates already shed a light on the current situation, we still need to do more. And next slide, please. As partner of two Horizon projects, Horizon funded projects, SAFE is working for, to advocate to tackle food waste and losses. And I would invite everyone to check the websites and the social media of these very beautiful projects that we are part of, because, those are the solutions, the innovative solutions that some other partners are developing and or implementing already. They're testing. For example, for sisters, there are a few partners around Europe that are that have developed and are right now testing a device that can be physically put into containers, into bulk boxes, and that would help like implementing a management system of the cold value chain. So what we need and what European projects are helpful for is strategies and solutions that can really be referred as cutting-edge solutions. So, in order to arrive in stores and make sure that the food we find on shelves has a longer life, then we need to act already at farm level, at primary production, but also we need to improve storage and efficiency and so on and so forth. And the last slide is just a thank you again to all of you, and just another, like a final message to remind ourselves that the European Union has an important role in paving the way and leading global efforts. So we need to foster partnerships through projects, through innovations and technologies, but also keeping on focusing on local policies that make sure that local producers can also have their stand in the European picture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Federica, so much for having highlighted some of the points that you would like to include in legislation or future legislation, particularly being present in legislation that apparently are not linked to food or food waste, because it's very important. That helps creating an education. Talking about the larger inclusion and the role of the European Union and the Commission, but in citizens in general are playing is very important. That's the reason why we also invited some major embassies to be present here. I'm thankful for the Embassy of Indonesia that took the challenge, because they are food producers and they often export toward the European Union. So it's very important to engage them as well in this big European effort. So we are about to close the panel. We've been very good in respecting the timing, so I'm moving to my Italian friend, Vito Antonacci, with a clear message, if you want to take it. Vito represents Zero Waste, in this case, the Italian chapter. So I leave the floor to you, Vito. Thank you so much.
Buongiorno.
Speaking in Italian?
Yes.
So again, sorry, you have to wear your headphones unless you want to learn some Italian.
Buongiorno a tutti, ringrazio Pietro.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank Pietro for organizing this event. It's been very interesting. It allows me to talk about Zero Waste Italy. It's an organization made up of several local groups, and we put together our knowledge, our training, and different stakeholders in terms of waste management and food waste reduction. One of those local groups is the so-called 5R waste group, and we worked on how to reduce food waste. It's a project tailored at school canteens. According to research carried out by the Catholic University in Brescia in 2017, every kid wastes around 100 grams of food per meal. It is a lot of food wasted if we scale it up to all the canteens in Italy. Maybe it's a whole meal that it's not, pasta meal that it's not eaten. They munch a bit of bread and they throw it away, or they don't eat their meat, and so on. So food waste, it's a huge problem at European level. And therefore, our project is mainly an educational one aimed at drastically reducing food waste. We are going to redistribute untouched food to those who need it. And we are also going to raise awareness in the stakeholders on their behavior. We'd like to transform food waste in a social resource. Our project is very simple. It needs just a few tools. First of all, we need to find a charitable organization that can redistribute the food. We need doggy bag for children to bring their uneaten food back home. So, for example, the bread or the fruit they didn't eat, they can then bring it home. And then we need to raise awareness in all the actors. We need to raise awareness in food distributors, the operators giving food to children, teachers, school managers, and then we need to raise awareness in municipal level politicians so that they can fund the project. We also need to raise awareness to families so that they can be aware of the child boxes the children will bring home and they could help them. So this project is very simple. First of all, we would like to raise awareness in operators so that they can give minimum or like the minimum possible portion, because these operators know the children and they know which children will eat less and will eat more. So, of course, they could give smaller portions to children that eat not a lot, and they, of course, if they're still hungry, they can ask for a second serving. And therefore, we could tackle and administer and optimize the administered quantity. This project is also in line with circular economy efforts. First of all, as many speakers said, food should be used to feed humans, and then it should be used to feed animals, and only as a last resort, food should be thrown away. Why is it important to talk about bio waste and food waste? Around 118 and 138 million tons of food waste is produced at European level every year. We are talking about organic waste that comes from production and consumption. Organic waste are 30-40% of urban waste, and the majority of this waste is landfilled and incinerated. Some countries, Northern European countries, are more advanced in recycling, but this waste is landfilled and incinerated.
This means that we waste the potential of recycling this organic material as compost or animal feed or for the production of biogas. The reason for this waste is that domestic organic waste ends up in general waste containers. So to recover the material, 65% of it, it is necessary that the organic waste is collected separately, with the limitation to the presence of biodegradable material in the undifferentiated waste container. So that's a request we're making to the European Commission. So organic waste is little more than 30%, but in this 30% you have to include also garden weeds and so on. Food organic waste is only 16% on average in the European Union, so we still have a lot to do. So even if it is compulsory, it is necessary to be more careful with the separate collection of organic waste, which is much easier in those countries in which you already have a very good separate collection for paper, plastic, and glass. There's countries you could very easily increase the percentage of the organic waste. We have some positive examples, like Italy. Sorry, I'm advertising for Italy a little bit, but here we managed to collect 55% of the total organic waste, including garden waste, and 48% of food organic waste, which is very much compared to the European average. In Milan, with 1.35 million inhabitants, we have 800 people commuting, 10 million tourists a year, and we have 65% of differentiated collection, separate collection, with 87% of the generated organic waste being collected. A good example to follow. Thank you very much.
Wondering how were translated into English, but thank you so much. Since I thank the translator, I want to thank the technician for being here and allowing us to manage the slides. Thank you very much. Also to thank Sara and Liuba for helping us in the organization, and Carol and Antonio as well, together with MEP D'Amato. This is the house of democracy. I think it's the best place in Europe and in the world, I would say, where citizens are well represented and our desires and wishes are represented. So thank you very much for hosting here. Thank you for the Green Group, even if sometimes we come from different perspective at Competere and Green Group, very different, but we're working in the same direction. Now I'll leave the floor to the debate among MEP. MEP De Meo is not arrived yet. I was told it's going to come sometimes. He's Italian, so it's going to take some time. But I would leave the floor now to MEP Ines Vaidere. Thank you very much for being here and for listening to almost the entire debate. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm really very pleased having today this debate on food waste. It's indeed a growing issue because very high amounts of food ends up in the waste. So, and I'm very thankful for inviting me to share. And I especially didn't prepare slides because I just wanted to look at me, you to look at me and to listen to me and not to slides. So I'm a professor at the university, and this is probably the best how to transmit the messages, to look at eyes, you know. So, as you know, on average, every year, more than 130 kilograms of food per person in Europe ends up in the bin. In total, it's about a third of all produced food. This has a huge economic cost. The value of food waste is estimated to be 132 billion euros, which means we throw out almost the entire EU budget in the rubbish bin. And simply put, food deserves our respect. A lot of work has been put into produce it. Lower food waste also means economic, environmental, and social benefits. It's good for our wallet, good for the planet, and good for the people. We often like to think that it's the restaurants, canteens, or shops that are responsible for it. However, in fact, more than half of this food waste is caused directly by households and consumers. This is why back in 2021, I decided that we have to begin solving the problem at specifically this level. Me personally, I developed a pilot project in the EU budget to reduce the consumer food waste. It was a research project on how to prevent still good food from ending up in waste. I wanted to gather all the best practices, both technological but also habitual, from all around the EU and compile them together to be used on a day-to-day basis. For those of you who don't know what is a pilot project, it's usually a research on some EU-level problem that the European Parliament deems as relevant as significant. It's first studied and then, if necessary, policy solutions are proposed. Every member of the European Parliament has the opportunity to develop a pilot project to tackle an issue that they have recognized and find important. However, there are hundreds of competing ideas, so achieving this, it's not an easy, and it requires a very strong proposal to be included in the European Parliament's budget and to receive funding for implementation. I managed to mobilize support from colleagues for this project, and 650,000 euros were granted in the EU's budget for 2021 to establish the European Consumer Food Waste Forum. The forum brought together leading experts, NGOs, and decision makers who developed practical suggestions on how to reduce food waste at the household and consumer level. Let me share with you just a few of the forum's conclusions and good practice recommendations. Firstly, focusing on schools, using engaging activities for children related to daily events such as games, challenges, smart learning technologies, about spending holidays such as Christmas or Easter without food waste. Or what to do with the contents of the fridge before going away for summer holidays. Other examples include learning about the work of a cook or local food suppliers and how they source and prepare food. And not to forget about teachers, providing them with courses and involving them in educational material development. Such a project was done in one member state and it showed food waste reduction by 30%. There are also actions we can implement at home. For example, using dedicated mobile apps for reminders and recipes specifically for the contents of your fridge. This is a moment of artificial intelligence integration. So difficult words, sorry. But the content is also difficult. Also, keeping lists of the food at home or using stickers for products with expiration dates. Such a study done in Netherlands showed food waste reduction up to 40%. One of the most important conclusions of the forum was that tools for food waste reduction should be adapted to the local context, customs and cultural norms. But educational content should focus on specific and quite simple everyday actions that children can also share with their parents. The solutions that the forum has presented will serve as a roadmap for everyone involved, including local and national decision makers, the media, educational institutions, researchers, entrepreneurs, and of course, individual households. The expert developed solutions are a practical benefit, as they already help implement more successful food waste reduction programs at both national and local levels. This means economic, environmental, and social benefits. At the follow-up of the pilot project, the Commission has proposed a directive to reduce food waste and come up with binding targets. We are currently working on this file in the ENVI committee. The EU has committed to significantly reduce the amount of food waste, including binding targets for member states. For example, food waste must be reduced by 30% per inhabitant in retail and consumption. That's restaurants, catering, households. So the forum's results and practical methods will be useful in achieving these targets. Policy, together with technological innovations that are discussed here today, and tips and tricks that are easy to implement on a daily basis, will ensure a holistic approach to tackle food loss and, of course, food waste. That's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Vaidere, for your points, particularly the one on school. And I think that on school is where a lot of the challenges will take place. The food waste, obesity is another challenge that goes through the school. So thank you very much for highlighting that point. We apologize also your conscious or unconscious problem with AI, but that means it's not probably so intelligent. That's what you think, or many people think as well. I leave the floor now to Rosa, since MEP De Meo is not here yet, and then maybe we open the floor if there's any question or comment that want to be released.
We can take the questions.
Oh, you want to go with questions? Yeah. Yes, that would be great, and then we can close. I leave the floor. There's also 30 people from home right now, so if there's any question, there's a question over there. Please also 2 questions, 3 questions, 4 questions. Just a matter of order. Quick questions and question. And if you make a comment, please say and present yourself as well with your name and affiliation if you have any.
I'll try to keep it short. Thank you again for having us all together. It's great to have so many like-minded people in one room. So already that's huge, I think. I think it is important. We've discussed several elements of reducing waste and loss. It is important, and for me it's more not a question, maybe a plea, that we always keep in mind the social aspects. I represent the food banks in 40 countries, over 40,000 volunteers. We see 900,000 tons of food redistributed to people in need, increasing. There is need in Europe. We are not pushing that food. We are receiving orders for that food. Every technological advance that we make is only going to contribute to a portion of the solution, not to the whole solution. There's going to be a need for a good old-fashioned elbow grease, people, networks, social, civil society, and I really, really hope that this panel, your takeaway message here, is that you go back and you think that there are networks already in place. Please use them. Let's not reinvent the wheel. I think there's going to be the innovation and what's already out there. So that is my only point. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your passionate comment. You deserve applause, and also for the great work you're doing. Your name you didn't mention. You mentioned.
My name is Esteban Arriaga.
Esteban Arriaga. Thank you so much. Next. Or you can go and just follow the order.
Thank you. I'm Luigi Tozzi, Deputy at Safe Food Advocacy. Yes, we have a presentation before, but I'm very interesting in the last presentation of Vito Antonacci. When we talk about food waste, it seems that we are playing a game that we have made maybe in the army with the grenades. The food waste is the grenade that we put to the other, but it's not a circle here, it's just a line. So it seems that at the consumer's level arrives all the grenades and exploded. It's about 50%. But we don't consider the same thing that we used to consider during the food chain to reduce the food waste or making in a food loss, or reusing this food waste or food loss as they do in the primary, in the industry and the retailers part. What Mr. Antonacci said is that it's possible in a way to consider it, considering the organic part of the food that is reused by Milan in this case, or other countries or other cities, and it should be something that I suggest to the Commission to consider. Because if is it right that we are at the consumer level we have the 50% of food waste, so we are the matter. Here is where you have to see how much is it really, and consider the part that really is reused as you use to do during in the other part. And another thing that I suggest also to the Commission is that so the question is, are you going to do that? So to consider the organic fraction in the count of the food waste at the consumer's level. The second part is on the food chain. We have seen we have a lot of report about it and sent it also to the Commission that in the food chain this grenade is used also to be not well used. I mean, when you see that there is a safe box, which is given because a lower price, but this safe box is closer to the best before date. You don't know where after if it's not sold is going. It's going to the charities, but it's so close to the best before date that they cannot use. So the retailers have hair sold white because they have reduced the food waste, but really they have just given the grenade to someone else. So the question is the Commission going to see how to solve this problem?
Thank you so much for the long question. If the Commission want to answer, but we move on for
smaller in case of hotel. So I have one experience in Bandung. That's one hotel they serve with the smaller plates, in particular in the breakfast time, and with that innovation, they call it innovation. They can reduce the food waste around 30%, and also they can reduce their the cost, because they serve limited raw material for this innovation. I think around 20 or 10%, and it is a big cost also for the hotel. And that is the experience. And one question perhaps to Commission, to DG Sante, about the rejected food in the border. Rejected shipment in the border. I think it is also food as well. And I heard some colleague of mine that it is difficult for them to return back the container to the origin country. I think because in your regulation it should be, I think, disposed, but it's a good idea if it's better idea, I think, if the rejected container can be shipped back to the origin country. Thank you very much.
Thank you also for providing a different perspective, in this case from an exporting country toward the EU, introducing a new perspective. So we have another question in the back, and then the last one here, please. Can you get close to a microphone? Sorry, if you could. Sorry, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but thank you for this.
Good morning. My name is Agnes Elitti. I represent the EU Specialty Food Ingredients. Oh, thank you. Very kind of you. Thank you. Yes, I have a question for. I have a consideration, general consideration, and then a question for Madame Nicola Kovoulou. The general consideration is that EU specialty food ingredients, the manufacturers of specialty food ingredients contribute with innovation solutions to cut the food waste, in particular by improving the shelf life of the products, and also in the circular utilization of buy and waste from either the farmers or even the food industry. And my question for the DG Sante is, first we welcome the proposal for the revision of the food waste targets. The food waste, we acknowledge that is a cross-cutting issue, and we need an holistic, ambitious solution, and we need also a conducive legislative environment, also in the innovation, acknowledging the principle of innovation. And to this end, I was also wondering on the framework for a sustainable food system legislation, because yes, food waste should not be seen in an in silo approach, but should be seen in an holistic perspective where we need a framework. The proposal is not yet there. Yesterday, the Commissioner Kyriakides has replied to MEP Luena on the question on the framework, on the proposal, and she replies saying that the Commission continues working on the proposal, but she has not provided any deadline and any new element. I was wondering if you could share with us some more information on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Last question, very brief as possible. Thank you.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Julie Hansen from the Global Cold Chain Alliance. We represent specifically third-party logistics companies handling products that require temperature control, meaning fresh produce, but also frozen produce. I have a very specific case and question for the Commission. We have cold store operators operating in the ports, receiving import of fresh produce, and on a yearly basis, tons of fresh produce are destroyed because, first of all, they do not meet the requirements, the aesthetic requirements of the retail. So it cannot go to the distribution channels, and they cannot be donated or used for other purposes because of the custom clearance issue. The logistics operator is not the owner of the product, but no one wants to take responsibility for clearing the customs in order to be able to use the wasted product for another purpose that could be useful, like donating to food banks. So my question is the Commission looking at regulations to lift up the burden of customs in those very specific cases where the products are rejected by the system, the retail distribution supply chain system? And is the Commission also considering some regulations to force retailers to use the products even though they have a small defect, but where the products are still consumable? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I imagine there are no more questions. If you have any question, there's a free space outside, so you can talk to the Commission outside, to Alexandra. Alexandra, I leave the floor to you.
Recycling and using organic fraction. Separate collection of bio-waste in order to turn it into compost, which is better than landfill. And so actually, yes, the organic fraction can also be recycled already in accordance with the current legislation. But as I said, we are here using the waste hierarchy, which is best use for people and then recycling. But above all, we should try to prevent it. The last question about the Commission looking into customs. So first of all, it is a known problem. One of the problems and one of the reasons which also lead to waste is non-compliance with what you call aesthetic standards. Here, I think there are already in the new proposal of the Commission on the agri-marketing standards, there have been some proposals and some provisions, modifications in order to prevent waste and abuse, let's say, of those provisions. So there are, I would say, on this issue, some improvements. Secondly, at the moment, I'm not aware, and we do not intend to look in the customs regulation, but obviously, as I said, it is an evolving matter. We also have a series of recommendations by the citizens, recommendations by the European Platform on Food Loss and Waste, and we will be looking into what can be done or what is necessary to be done, because somebody mentioned, I think Federica from SAFE, that food waste should be integrated in all other policies and other legislation. I would make it even broader than food waste. I would say sustainability related questions. The sustainability of food systems should be part of other policies. But also I think this gives me the opportunity to say that it is very important also to have collaboration along the food value chain, and member states should also encourage partnerships and good cooperation between retailers, producers, food manufacturers, in order to avoid commercial practices that lead to food waste. Last word on the FSFS, on the framework legislation. I think that I cannot say something more. What is important with the FSFS is this food system approach, which is very much needed in order to engage with all players of the food system at all levels, but also address all dimensions of sustainability. Even when we've been discussing here food waste, we see that there are some trade-offs, be it packaging, for example, versus waste, safety, which should never be undermined, but sometimes it also, in our discussions, we see we should, if we want to avoid food waste, and we have solutions, but they should not undermine food safety. I think the added value of having a framework legislation would be indeed that this would help putting the different dimensions of sustainability together, and it create the mechanism also in the decision making to find some solutions to these inherent trade-offs of food sustainability. Now, as I said, we do not have at the moment a date for the adoption. We are also in the phase where we are preparing the priorities of the next Commission. You are also maybe aware that the Commission has launched a strategic dialogue with on the future of farming, and we see some of the requests in this dialogue from the stakeholders is indeed to the Commission to present in the next Commission this framework law that we very much support, and we obviously welcome your support for such a framework legislation. Thank you.
In Italian, sorry. Allora, grazie, intanto grazie alla Commissione per le risposte. Ho come l'impressione che noi dovevamo organizzare questo
I had the impression that we had to organize this event at the beginning of this legislative period because there are so many requests to change directives and modify them. Well, right now, in this moment when farmers are protesting on the roads, and I believe that they are not well understood, but are just used in the different member states by the different governments, trade unions, category associations, so that everybody is blaming the other member states and the European Union. Well, this topic is part
e quindi dobbiamo capire quanto questo tema sia importante, perché
and how important this topic is.
Ma se riusciamo
should not be offended, but if we manage
che non riesce noi
the problem. Policymakers do not manage to guarantee farmers with an appropriate income. Therefore, if we as consumers manage to valorize in a better way the short chain. Maybe in some countries this might be a little bit easier, which means consumers managing to buy directly from farmers or from small retail shops. Then the issue of food waste is reduced. But of course, I'm also a consumer, and I also go to big supermarkets. You can't do without them. So we all have a responsibility, and the holistic approach is once again the best. But the ethical responsibility, and maybe I didn't hear this adjective, ethical. So it is not just an economic or environmental issue. It is not just a matter of jobs, but also in this case, we can achieve some improvement. Digital platforms allow us to reduce food waste, but there is also an ethical and moral issue. And in this historical period, I believe we really do need to be socially and ethically honest towards our planet, towards mankind, especially the poorest human beings who do not manage to make ends meet and do not manage to have a proper meal every day. So we have a big responsibility, and in view of the European elections, we must bear this in mind, because the European elections will lead to the new European Parliament and the new European Commission. I really do hope that these topics will be considered also at the next round, at the next term, independent of the winning majority. And it is a responsibility of all citizens, activists, stakeholders. We have to go on lobbying and asking, independent of the color of the next European Parliament and the next European Commission.
MEP D'Amato can give a little talk outside if he wants for electoral purposes. Thank you for joining us, and we can convene next time. Thank you so much for being with us. Last thing, all it's recorded and will be made available with all the slides and presentation that were given. Thank you.